Good morning. Today is April 2nd, is that right? And it's been a year since I took my trip around Ohio checking the Electrify America stations, and it's time to do the run again. This year we're doing it a little differently. The goal is over the 2 days to stop at home, so we're going to do a northern loop and a southern loop, pretty much exactly the reverse direction of last year's trip. There's the Google Maps showing where we're going first today. I'm going to head up to the northwest corner of Ohio and come down the Ohio Turnpike and hit the two Ohio Turnpike stops first. I've got the car charged to 100%. It's about 50 degrees outside, so it's going to be a chilly day. And zeroed out the odometer, and let's get on the road. Okay, we've been driving for a couple of hours and we are getting close to our first stop. It's the longest drive of the day. It's to our first stop up in the northwest corner of Ohio and on the turnpike. And we're approaching it from the back roads. And it says we've got about 37 miles left before we're there. About 64 miles left of predicted range.
Use the right lane to take the I-80, I-90 East ramp.
We have reached the northwest corner of our travels. Going to get on the turnpike and start heading east for the rest of the day. Until we head south. Okay, we have arrived and plugged in West Unity, and gonna get charged up here and head on to the next one, which is pretty close by. I think it's only between 40 and 50 miles from here. I can't tell you exactly because Google Maps is being a complete butthead here, and it refuses to tell me I've arrived at this charging station. Wants me to drive another 500 feet to where the gas pumps are for it to acknowledge that I've reached my destination. And I don't seem to have any way to tell it, no, I'm there. And so because it doesn't think we've arrived at this waypoint yet, it will not tell me how far we are to the next one. But I know from experience from last year that it's about less than 50 miles. So we're going to stop at least 20 minutes here just to have a regular station break and get on to the next one. A quick update while we're sitting here waiting for our first charge. Maybe highlight some of the other differences between this year's trip and last year's, besides going in the opposite direction. Astute viewers, all tens of people, among the tens of people who watched last year's video, will probably have noticed that the odometer reading on the dash is lower than my car last year. How can that be? That's because we actually have two bolts. My wife also has one.
astute viewers of this year's video may notice another difference, is that there was another person in the car. That is the said owner of the vehicle. Jane is with me for the trip this year. She's a little shy, so try not to spook her. But while we've been sitting here, there's been 2 other aborted charging incidents from other cars that came up. There was a Tesla Model Y pulled up, looked around, drove off because they saw only CCS chargers. And a Toyota, I think it's a Corolla plug-in hybrid, pulled in and tried to plug in and found that their port only did not have the DC pins, and he couldn't get that big fat connector connected. So he just locked his car and walked off. So what does that say? There's an uptick in usage of electric cars, and people don't really have charging figured out yet in some of these cases. Maybe that's a fault of the apps. The app should be, as long as the app knows what car you're in, and you can tell the app what car you drive, it shouldn't point you to chargers that don't have outlets that you can use. I think that's pretty straightforward, but anyway. We're going to charge up for another 10 minutes or so and get on to our next stop, which is only, like I said, between 40 and 50 miles from here, and continue on. So, with it being cold and there being somebody I want to keep warm in the vehicle, we have used 10% for climate settings, 90% for driving. We've gone 176 miles, used 53.2 kilowatts of energy. Okay, onward. Yeah, because it wants me to go to where the pumps are. That 14th decimal point location. And it won't believe we're at our destination until we do. Teslas! Yay! That's new. Okay, we're at our second stop, and we're charging up, getting 50 kilowatts, which is good. We weren't getting that much at the previous one. Maybe now the battery's finally heated up enough. It has been kind of cold today. So it's lunchtime, so we're going to get lunch. So we'll go ahead and let it charge as much as it charges while we're eating. So we're going to get a pretty high state of charge while we're here. Let's see where we are on energy use. Our climate settings went down to 8%, which is good because it's warmed up. It's 46 degrees now. 232.6 miles, 71 kilowatts used, which is larger than the battery pack. So we're just ripping and charging and driving. Let's take a look at where we're going next.
Head south toward I-80 East, I-90 East.
So 72 miles to our next stop. That is the Sheffield/Elyria charger off the turnpike. That'll be the end of our turnpike journey, which we're looking forward to. So, what do you say? We'll go get something to eat. Be back later. Okay, done with lunch, charged up to, gosh, almost 60%, I'd say. A little more. And our next stop's about 70 miles from here. Let's go. Wanted to show that they've added one thing here. a bank of Tesla chargers. That was not here last year. So Electrify America hasn't done diddly squat, but Tesla has shown them up by putting in twice as many chargers.
I-80 East, I-90 East.
Shut up. Okay, we've reached Sheffield, plugged in and charging, and a new occurrence so far on these trips. All the chargers are in use. Got an Ioniq 5 over there. He's just unplugging now. Well, looks like he's going to try starting his session again. And a Mach-E, he just finished and unplugged. And there's another Chevy Bolt next to us on the other side. And we're using station 2. So that's all 4 stations in use. That is the first time I've seen that. It's also the first time I've seen an Ioniq 5 in the wild. Got even cooler after the Mach-E left. This EV6 pulled up. First time I've seen one of those too. Another unique thing is we're pulling 53 kilowatts, which I don't believe I've seen before. I think this is the first time I've ever used this specific charger, so maybe that has something to do with it. But 50 is the highest I can recall ever seeing, and I know 53 is, or is it 54? One of those is its absolute max. But seeing that's pretty interesting. Let's check our energy usage. We're down to 6% on climate, heading in the right direction. 304 miles traveled, 95 kilowatt hours of energy. Our next stop is in Mentor, Ohio, over past Cleveland. So we're heading from east of Cleveland to west of Cleveland. No, west of Cleveland to east of Cleveland. Duh. Okay, bye now. Alright, I don't know how long we've been here, probably half an hour or so. And here's where we're going. Going from west of Cleveland to east of Cleveland. Only 45 miles, so we might as well just unplug and go.
Head northwest toward Abbey Road North.
Okay, we've arrived with that much left. Our next stop is Salt Springs Road. If I hit go, it should tell me how long it is to there, right? 74 miles. Let's check our energy usage. Still at 6% on climate. 349.5 miles, 108 kilowatts energy. Alright, get plugged in and stay for what, 10 minutes? Keep moving. Of note about that stop was when we got there was a silver Bolt already there, so we were the second one.
Head west toward Reynolds Road.
Yeah, okay. And then shortly after we arrived, a
In
third
200
bolt.
feet, turn left onto Reynolds Road.
It's like she can hear me. Turn right onto Reynolds
Turn
Road?
left onto Reynolds
Left.
Road.
Yeah, left. Okay, we've reached Girard. 424 miles, 131 kilowatt hours. Still 94.6 split on the driving climate. Okie dokie, let's get plugged in and juiced up enough to get to Mansfield. So here in Girard, we are full up. We have an orange Bolt, we have a Porsche Taycan, we have a black Bolt, and an orange Bolt. So this is the second stop where we've been completely full with the 4 chargers that were at that place. Happened in Sheffield/Elyria, and it happened here. Things are filling up. Okay, in Girard we're charged up to 151 miles. And this is about 107 miles to Mansfield. So here we go. Okay, our last stop of the day, or at least last charging stop, and then we'll head home in Mansfield. We have a lot less mileage left than I hoped we would. Good thing every charging stop we've been at has worked, because otherwise we'd have been looking for alternatives. So far, 531 miles today, 532 miles, 164 kilowatt hours used. Our climate settings dropped to 5%, so 95.5 split. That's pretty good. Considering the sun is going down and it's getting cold, it's probably going to creep back up by the time we get home. But anyway, we're going to charge here as long as we can and then get home. Okay, we're charged up to 80%, heading home. Okay, we have made it to home for the night. And we're pretty exhausted. It's been over 12 hours a day. But let's look at our energy usage. 573 miles, 177 kilowatt hours of energy used. That's quite a bit. 6 charging stops. Tomorrow there's only 4. And it should be a couple hours less. But I think when all is said and done, we will be pretty close to 1,000 miles, if not farther. Hopefully that is enough range to get us to our first stop tomorrow, which I believe was like 111 miles away. But we won't be taking highways for all of that, so that should help. Okay, time to call it a night. It is morning, it is cold, we have the heat on, and we're going 103 miles with 114 on the guessometer. Because that's just the way we roll.
In a quarter mile at the traffic circle, continue straight to stay on Four Winds Drive.
But officer, the GPS said to go straight. Welcome to Gaslight Square. We've made an extra stop because on our way to Cambridge because we didn't want to white knuckle it there, so we stopped at this Easton charge point fast charger and plugged in and get ourselves a buffer of electricity so we don't have to be scared of making it to Cambridge. Of these 3 fast chargers here, this is the only one that worked. One over there didn't show any problems, it just refused to acknowledge it had been plugged into a car. This one says it's out of order, and this one worked. Anyway, we're going to stay here for a little while, maybe get 20 or 30 miles of range, and continue on. So our weather luck continues to be poor, just like last year. It got gloomier and darker as the day wore on. Lovely.
Your destination is on the left.
No, it's actually not.
Right here.
Okay, we've arrived in Cambridge, and both the chargers over there do not work. They're at Windows setup screen, or Windows main window screen. It's like their app has crashed. Cambridge, of course, is the backward station, where every station seems to have been put in backwards, and everybody who comes to use it pulls into the back of it because it doesn't make any cabling sense otherwise, including this Polestar, who's right here. He's behind that cabinet using it, so the only one left of the 4 here that was available and functioning was this one, which of course I am pulled into the back of. I think we had about 35 miles showing on the guessometer when we got here. No, it was down to 30 because it was in the orange. So we're pulling 50 kilowatts, getting a good rate from this last remaining working charger. Let's check our energy usage. So we've gone 680 miles and used 211 kilowatt hours of energy. 94.6 split on the driving and climate. We have had to use the defogger for this whole trip this morning. And it's actually quite toasty in the car, even though no other heat is on. So that thing's pumping out the BTUs. So now another Bolt has pulled in, and he tried to use one of the ones that was showing a Windows screen to me. I looked in the app and it's showing as available now. He's either working on it and getting it working with Electrify America, or they got it rebooted and working for him. So 3 of 4 stalls in use here in Cambridge. This whole southern area of Ohio is very poorly covered. This is the only EA station in this half of the state, basically southeastern or eastern. We're directly east You have to go all the way up to Youngstown or all the way down to Cincinnati to find another one, or all the way west to Columbus. So there's a dearth of options in this part of Ohio, and the one that's here is poorly maintained. Bad news. So usage is up. Station quantity has not changed one bit, and the network that is there is poorly maintained. So that's not a good sign. I would say things are going in the wrong direction. We have 3 more stops today, so we'll see if that trend continues as we head south today. Okay, we've got a nice healthy charge here in Cambridge. We are not going to head to Cincinnati, which had been our original plan. I'm tired of trying to white knuckle it. We're going to go the loop in the other direction and head towards the Columbus charger on the west side of Columbus, and then from there to Dayton, and then down to Cincinnati. We may be making a detour at home as well, depending on some transportation needs of other members of our family. But regardless, our stop arrangement is changed. Well, we're going to leave Cambridge, then we're going to go to Columbus, then we're going to go to Dayton, then to Cincinnati, and then home. Okay, let's go. How bleak is my valley? All right, I've got some explaining to do. We had to come home after our Cambridge stop. Basically, went from home to Cambridge. From Cambridge, we charged a lot and then came back because another family member needed a ride somewhere. So came home so they could get that done. And on the way back, we burned so much energy. We got down to, I think, under 30 miles of range left, which was not even really enough to safely get from home to the Columbus charger on the west side of the Outer Belt, which is our next stop. So I went ahead and plugged in, and we got juice at home for about an hour and a half. And we're back up to 61 miles. We net about 20 to 25 miles of range per hour of charging at home on the 32 amp charging station. So I did that, and I didn't want to have to do that. The idea of this trip is to use all public charging on a 1,000-mile trip, and I'm just going to count this as using destination charging, or no different than if I had gone to a mall and used a level 2 charger there for an hour. So, going to continue on now and get this thing done today. It's going to be pretty dark when we get home, because we got to go from home to the Columbus charger, and then from there to the Dayton charger, and from there to the Cincy charger, and then back home. We're going to get this done pretty much completely backwards from last year, essentially. At this point, we've gone to we'll have gone to all 10 charging stops, but done them in reverse order, which is fine. All right, let's get going. Okay, we're pulled into the Columbus charger and plugged in and getting charged up. It's nice to see an ID4 is charging here, and I gotta say, in that that dark blue, it looks really good. That's kind of a handsome car. I test drove one of those last year. It was a white one, and I wasn't impressed by the look of it. That one looks a lot nicer. Anyway, let's check our energy usage. $815 miles traveled so far, 255 kilowatt hours of energy. 94.6 split on climate. I didn't use climate at all getting from home to here, but there was no need. And that will probably continue at least to Dayton, but by then it's going to be getting dark and probably using the heater then. Anyway, I'm going to charge up until I'm tired of being here basically, and then we'll get on the road to Dayton. Wow, just got to say, quite an increase in usage in just past 5 minutes. This Taycan and this Black Bolt pulled up. So there's a total of 4 of us here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chargers. So that's a pretty high utilization. Okay, we're charged up a little over 50%. And we're going to Electrify America in Dayton. It's like, it says 48 minutes. I don't know how many miles it is. 45 miles or something like that. And so we'll get started. Okay, we've arrived in Huber Heights and are plugged in and getting charged. Again, we're almost every charging session this car has pulled over 50 kilowatts. So I'm a little jealous. Looks like my wife's car is better at DC fast charging than mine is. Let's check our usage. 869 miles traveled. 271.5 kilowatt hours, 94.6 split on climate. I'm surprised that climate has not gone down because it's been off this whole trip since I left home. All right, charged to 111 miles predicted. We're going 57 miles, plenty of buffer. Gonna keep the climate control off again as we head out because the sun is still up and it's still plenty warm enough in here. All right, let's get going. Oh, hello, Dayton. Bye-bye, Dayton. Oops. On the highway, not moving. Okay, now I hear sirens, and we're all pulling over away from the right edge of the highway. Well, we didn't get to see it, but there is a 2-car collision in the middle of the highway.
Arrived.
Let's see who we've got here today. I see an Ioniq 5. Ooh, green. I like that green. And an ID4. Sweet. Okay, we've reached Cincinnati. Plugged in, charging up. That was a very efficient driving session there. Um, Again, the climate control is completely off. And I think a lot of it's downhill. I think from Dayton down to Cincinnati, there's a elevation drop. And there's no wind today either. 95-5 split on driving versus climate. So that's good. Finally got climate to tick down by 1%. 926 and a half miles. And I'm at my last stop, but I've got, 100 miles to go to get home from Cincinnati, maybe a little more. So I'm going to stay here till I probably got about 150 miles of charge. So we're guessing about 75%, 70 to 75% state of charge. And then we'll head home, and this year's Grand Tour will be over. Okay, since I've arrived, we got two Mach-E's that have shown up, a red one and a gray one. And they both seem to have a lot of trouble figuring out where to park and how to charge. Even though the charge port is in the same place as it is on my car, they seem to be having a lot of trouble figuring out how to park. And it seemed this guy with the red one, he even tried to plug into the same cabinet that the Hyundai Ioniq 5 was plugged into. And this gray guy, he's not figuring it out either. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. A lot of newbies, maybe. I've got my window cracked open so I can talk to them if they look friendly or if they look like they're confused or need help. But so far, everybody's just very much keeping to themselves. And I haven't had an opportunity to say anything to anybody, but pretty weird. Definitely busy, but also confusion. Okay, charged up to 80%. Got about 111 miles to get back home. It's got a nice cushion. Time to head home and call this thing a day. Would like to show you some of the unorthodox charging methodologies going on here. Hello, Columbus. And we are home. Our journey ended. Still have 50 miles left, so pretty much dead on 50 miles of buffer. Worked out perfectly. 95-5 split on the climate versus driving. 1,044 and a half miles. 322.4 kilowatt hours of energy. I think that blows past what we used last year. So now let me wrap up with some thoughts. All right, I'm going to try to do a brief summary of my thoughts about the trip this year to avoid having to do anything, shoot anything sitting in front of the car later. Basically, we did the whole trip backwards from last year, and we went farther because our waypoint was at home, which is in the center of the state, rather than near our last charging point on the first day. So that added mileage, so we got to do an actual over 1,000 miles. Last year, I think we did 100 miles less than this. So that's all good, and we got through it, and we used my wife's Bolt instead of mine. And takeaways from that part of it is I think her car's better than mine. It charges faster by 2 to 3 kilowatt hours regularly at every stop. It also seems to have a little more get up and go. It was a little thirstier though, so trade off. But my thoughts on the trip this time versus last time, now that I have something to compare last year to, is it's disappointing. There hasn't been a single charge stop or charger added to Electrify America's network in 1 year. As I was expecting and was curious about, usage is up. I think last year I was predicting that within a year these would be busy.
But I'll bet next summer they will be busy. And there will be, if there are 5 chargers at a place, I'll bet 3 of them will be in use.
And half of them were busy. So I would say I'm going to give myself a thumbs up on that prediction. Most of the stops had a car at them, and half the stops were almost full, if not full. So there was a huge uptick in usage compared to last year, where I only came across a total of 3 other cars charging across all 10 stops. This time it was closer to 30 cars charging. And also disappointing, not only that they didn't add any chargers in a year when the usage increased by a substantial amount. In fact, there are fewer available chargers than there were last year, because I came across several units that were blue screened or at a Windows screen or were marked as out of service. So there was actually a reduction in the number of available chargers this year compared to last. And wow, that's disappointing, doesn't describe it. It's alarming. So we'll go another year before we try this again. I don't see the point of trying it again in warmer weather this year. It'll just be busier. But a year from now, if they haven't doubled the size of this network, then it'll probably be the end of my ability to do this trip without significant wait times. And I'm not looking forward to that, and I won't bother doing it if that's the case. So we'll see. Crossing fingers, hoping that these networks expand, and that also that more EVs become available. There's plenty have come on the market in the United States, but not many of them are actually available. And the ones that are very expensive. The Teslas have all moved out of financial reach of the average person, I feel. And the Kias and the Fords have not moved below that 50K mark very far. The closest thing to affordable, other than the Bolt, is the VW ID4, and it's in very, very limited availability right now. Hopefully their plant coming online in Tennessee will rectify that. And hopefully GM can get their smaller cars coming out too. The Bolt is supposed to go back into production this month. Tomorrow morning, I believe, April the 4th. And we'll see if that happens, and if they go back on sale, and if they are 30 to 32,000, then I think we'll see a lot more of those sold, even though it's now a 6-year-old platform. All right, well, that's enough rambling for sure. Thanks for watching, and see you next year, I guess, maybe, hopefully. Bye now.